Okay. Hello and welcome everybody to this webinar, an introduction to TomTom Analytics. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving up your Wednesday lunchtime. We really appreciate and people attending these webinars. We have over 150 people registered for this webinar, which is fantastic. And in part, that's because what we're trying to do today is show you something that's a little new to the industry. To start with, just some introductions. My name's Chris Morris. I am the Group Manager for New Business and Marketing at Abley. And joining me in a sec will be Jacob Bassini, who will talk you through some of our, talk you through the TomTom Traffic Analytics data products. So what we've discovered in the industry in recent months, recent years, I guess, is that people are becoming more and more familiar with data and data products, and how that data and information can really help organizations understand more about, in this case, kind of traffic information, and get more information than simply surveys alone. It's also enabling people to work more efficiently. And as you'll see from some of the demos that Jacob does shortly, the TomTom platform, which we're going to talk about shortly, it is a really easy and quick way to start getting hold of information and using that information in ways that perhaps in the past have been more difficult to do. So I'm just going to run you through the agenda. So introductions, you've now met me, Chris, and shortly you'll be meeting Jacob. We'll be talking about TomTom and how it collects data traffic. We'll then move on to look at the historical traffic products that TomTom has. We'll move on and then look at the real-time traffic products and how those can be used. Jacob has got a whole bunch of live demonstrations, which are really going to show you how the platform works. And then I'm sure as we go through this process, you'll have you'll have some questions, and if you can save those questions towards the end, please just type any questions you do have, though, as they crop up in the chat window, and we'll address as many of those as possible when we get to the end of the presentation. Firstly, just a little bit about Abley. I'm sure some of you have heard of us before. Indeed, looking through the attendance list, we work with quite a few of you guys already. But for those who haven't heard of Abley, it's worth just spending a tiny bit of time about who we are and why we're important within the industry. So Abley is an award-winning New Zealand-owned and operated company, and we have expertise in transport planning and engineering, as well as spatial information and data intelligence. And it's really that combination of those two things that I think makes Abley a special place to work, to be honest. We're really proud to be leaders in providing road safety solutions and using data and technology to drive the solutions that we come up with. We use data, such as the information you're going to see today, to help provide clear insight and bring greater clarity to the work that we undertake for our clients. We also make smart tools so decisions on road safety can be evidence-based, because that's really important. We know that as practitioners, having good and accurate data is really key, but it can also be really challenging to get hold of that information. And so having the right data helps us make those smart decisions and where we should spend our money for road safety purposes. As industry experts, we're proud to use our voice to promote safer and cleaner transport solutions across the country and further afield as well. It's worth kind of mentioning our product CarbonWise, which is really built to help organisations understand how their staff are commuting to work, and then look at opportunities to reduce carbon emissions. Our road safety team is part of the expert group that contributes towards New Zealand's Road to Zero strategy. The strategy also our strategy is also informed by the Safe Speeds model, which from those of you working in Wakatahi will understand. This resulted in the Safer Journeys risk assessment tool known as MegaMaps, which I'm sure many people here have also either used or seen in the past. And it's this linking of strategic, technical knowledge and expertise with our kind of geospatial understanding that helps us meet the challenge for Vision Zero and also for the wider communities that we work with. So I want to introduce you to Jacob Bassini. He's our business development manager, focusing particularly on the data products that Abley resell. And Jacob's going to talk through particularly the TomTom data products, and over the next kind of half an hour or so, run you through what the TomTom product set offering is, and also provide you with some live demonstrations so you can actually see how easy and how efficient these data products can be. So with that, Jacob, I will pass over to you, and we'll run through the slides.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. So before I start off, just want to do a quick introduction to TomTom. Most of you will know of TomTom. Perhaps some of you might have brought some of their very early on wearable devices, or perhaps purchased a very early GPS device in your car. But these days, TomTom is quite a different company from their hardware company. So TomTom is a leading independent location technology specialist, shaping mobility and logistics with high quality, accurate maps, navigation software, real-time information and services. So by combining their extensive experience with leading business and technology partners, TomTom power connected vehicles, smart mobility and autonomous driving. TomTom's technologies are trusted by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Thanks, Chris. They have a diverse customer portfolio ranging from large enterprises, small to medium enterprises, down to individual developers. Companies like Uber and Verzion manage their fleets and provide navigation to their professional drivers with TomTom's location technology. And other companies such as Microsoft and Cardo use TomTom data and APIs to enrich their mapping solutions. TomTom is a pioneer in the field of map technology, floating car data, and a leader in industry of traffic information. They continue to innovate and develop services that address a wide range of use cases, from autonomous driving to traffic management and analytics. Thanks, Chris. Increasing traffic congestion delays present a serious problem for drivers and businesses. Therefore, reliable traffic information is vital for transport planners, traffic management and mobility over the world. Knowing the historic, current and predicted traffic conditions, cities and enterprises can better plan and take corrective measures that influence driver behaviour and reduce congestion levels and emissions. Launched in 2008, the TomTom Traffic database has trillions of data points with over 60 billion new records being added every day. TomTom's traffic portfolio is available in over 80 countries, making it a scalable service for global solutions. And TomTom's data fusion process takes this data from a variety of sources and enables a refresh of their real-time traffic information services every 30 seconds. Thanks, Chris. As mentioned, they collect a vast amount of information. This most important stream of information is GPS data received from various vehicle fleets, including their own TomTom navigation. Autonomous systems included in vehicle fleets such as Volkswagen, Hyundai and others, and their own smartphone applications, including those from TomTom and Uber. Traffic managers, system integrators and developers can take advantage of TomTom's traffic services in a variety of formats and delivery methods, including APIs, as well as user-friendly online portals such as the Move portal, which we'll have a look at next. TomTom's traffic analytics products are provided through APIs and through their Move portal, which provides a single environment to interrogate and utilize their historical and real-time data. The Move portal features 5 distinct traffic products, each with their own unique benefits that leverage TomTom's data to solve various use cases for a variety of users. Processing time for the reports will vary by the number of road segments and the time period being queried. However, most reports are completed in a matter of minutes, and we'll show you that shortly. Even large queries should never take longer than 24 hours, and once the reports are ready, The output is available for download in a variety of formats to use in your own applications, or for interactive viewing in the portal, or even with shareable reports. The Road Event Reporter is for approved organisations to log upcoming and real-time incidents. These events are monitored in real time through TomTom personnel and automation tools. We won't look at this one in much detail today, but we'd be happy to discuss this with you if it's of interest. But for now, we'll have a look at the remaining products in more detail. TomTom Traffic Stats. So this tool provides insights into the historical traffic situation on the road network all the way back in New Zealand to 2008, with new information being made available within hours of being captured. Users can specify a query for these selected road segments, times of interest, and the date ranges to be analysed. Users can easily choose to exclude specific weekdays or even public holidays. Traffic Stats returns a raft of information about the selected road segments, including average harmonic average and median speed, average travel times and sample sizes, along with percentiles. You can look at the information for selected segments or summary information about the entire route. The summary information allows the ability to understand the consistency and speed of travel throughout the analysis period. Thanks, Chris. TomTom OD, or Origin Destination Analysis. This tool provides trip investigation based on user-defined trip origins and destinations. Origins and destinations can be created by either uploading your own regions, using predefined regions, or creating them directly in the application. An OD matrix is delivered as a result with the absolute number of trips from each to every region. Within the TomTom Move OD app, 4 additional outputs are available. Map flows to visualize the trip distribution, a Sankey diagram to show you the connections between each region, a spatial Sankey, a map-based visualization of those connections, and a flow explorer, which allows you to interactively select your origins and destinations and any via locations. Recently, TomTom has also added a selected link origin destination analysis. Selected link allows you to analyze the inbound and outbound trips through a selected road segment. The analysis calculates the trip distribution of all trips on the consecutive road segment within 10 kilometers of your selected link. And we'll explore this in more detail in the live demo shortly. TomTom Route Monitoring. So this provides a comprehensive traffic monitoring service. When events, accidents, or other unplanned traffic stoppages occur, it's important for road authorities, event managers, emergency services, and other trusted partners to be able to monitor the traffic situation on key routes. By providing users with information about current route travel times, delay times in comparison to free flow traffic, and average data confidence level, the TomTom Route Monitoring service makes it easy for users to make proactive measures to improve traffic mobility. The TomTom Route Monitoring will benefit both drivers and road authorities. Traffic managers can monitor conditions, while drivers can be better informed and encounter less congestion, improving their driving experience. The app displays information for the route as a whole or for individual route segments, including current and typical travel time, delay times, and absolute versus relative speed. And finally, TomTom Junction Analytics. This tool connects you to rich real-time junction traffic data available 24/7, potentially reducing the need to install expensive hardware. Using this app, you can configure and visualize intersection locations and use intuitive analytics tools and reports to obtain detailed insights into signal performance and mobility patterns. Junction analytics can be set up for any intersection as defined by the user and returns detailed metrics on travel times, turn ratios, queue lengths, stops per approach, and more. While Junction Analytics is a live tool showing the current performance of the junction, Users can view the patterns over the previous 8 days within the app and can download the previous 6 months of data if required. Okay, thanks, Chris. So now we come to the fun part, and I get to do a live demonstration. So we'll have a look at those 4 traffic products, starting with some of the live products and moving into some of the historical traffic products. So I'll just take control of the screen from here, Chris. And we should be okay. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Good nod. So here's the interface into the TomTom Move portal. As you can see, I've got my 4 products that I have lined up, and my road viewing reporter, which we don't have active at the moment. So to start with, in terms of the live demonstration, we're going to have a look at some of the live traffic products, and then we'll look at some of the historical reports. So we'll start with route monitoring. So this is a live feed, and bringing in the live feed information from TomTom. And we've got 2 routes. Showing me that I've got 2 routes at the moment. It's given me a bit of a dashboard, so I can easily see what's happening on a particular route. I've got 2 routes set up, Pika Pika to Otaki, travelling northbound, and State Highway 58 in Wellington, travelling westbound. We'll have a look at these in more detail. So I'm just going to click on the report. So this is Pika Pika to Otaki, travelling from Pika Pika in the south through to Otaki in the north. Anyone that would have driven this route, particularly at the start of Labour weekend holidays, will know that particularly at the Pika Pika end, it can get congested relatively quickly. At the moment, it's showing a reasonable amount of traffic flow. So in terms of the information that we've shown, the travel time is 13 minutes versus a typical travel time of 12 minutes. A small delay, and we've got some route length, flow coverage, and then average confidence. So we can see across the route as we drag our mouse, and we can also interactively select or understand as we hover the cursor over the route as well. At the moment, I'm looking at the relative speed, so how relative it is to the free flow speed, and in most cases it's traveling pretty well. We can also look at the absolute speeds, and so this is showing that the absolute speed at the moment, slow at the start, where the 2 lanes off the expressway merge into one, and then the speeds increase through the middle, past most of the roadworks, and then start to slow down again as we move into Otaki. So this information is currently picking up the live data from TomTom, refreshes every minute. I can auto refresh the data, or I can force a refresh, and it's going to pull through that information for that particular route. Another example, State Highway 58 in a particular direction. So we're traveling essentially from east to west. And again, in this case, we're looking at the absolute speed. So on the Haywards Hill side, relative speed up around the 70 kilometre mark, slows down through Judgeford, increases again, slows down near the junction with Transmission Gully, and then slows down again as we reach these urban areas. How does it match versus relative speed? Again, at this time of day, it's matching pretty high in terms of those free flow speeds. So this is the live reporting tool. The great thing about this is because it's got an API, this can be used to push out information into those variable messaging services and other ways in which you potentially want to communicate this information. The other live traffic product is Junction Analytics. So with Junction Analytics, the user gets to choose and define what is included in a particular junction. So we'll have a look at a couple of examples. An example we're going to look at first is this one here. I've named it Johnsonville North. So it's in Wellington. The junction itself is, I've defined it as being enclosed or enclosing these two roundabouts. I'll show you the boundary that I've included. And so with the particular boundary, when you draw the boundary, it then determines, the tool itself determines what are the approaches, which are these blue lines that enter the junction. And then the black lines or the dark grey lines are the exits. I can turn off the approaches so we can see the exits coming out through here. So with junction analytics, it takes each approach and brings back detailed statistics and measurements about what is happening with the traffic through that approach. So we have a current delay time versus the usual delay time. We have a queue length, travel time versus the free flow travel time. In regards to the historical data, we can change the time frame. So I can look at 24 hours, 3 days, back to 8 days. So for this particular approach, this is the pattern for my delay in seconds over the last 8 days. I can look at the average, the max, the min, the percentiles. I can look at the delay length, the queue length, the travel time, the accumulated probes. This morning, the traffic was particularly heavy through Johnsonville all the way through down Narrowinga Gorge, and this is shown up in the information here. So the queue length, nearly 500 metres, the traffic was particularly bad this morning. And we can see as we move around that delay length for the approach is feeding traffic down south, down Johnsonville Road, down Moorfield Road. They were particularly high. We can search through those. We can also see when in this particular bit of analysis here through Labour weekend, the flow and the queue length was lower than in some cases those spikes in the morning and the afternoon for particular approaches. We can also see in some cases that some have different travel patterns. So for example, Johnsonville Road North has more of a peak in the afternoon versus something like Bassett Road, which typically has more of a peak in the morning, although can be influenced in the afternoons as well. As I mentioned, junction analytics can be set up for any particular junction. It's up to you. It doesn't have to be controlled by traffic lights. Another example here. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see here the turn ratios, which is the turn ratios over the last 30 minutes. So green lane coming off the motorway, in the last 30 minutes, 70% of the traffic turns north up the green lane, and the remaining 30% turns southeast. If I was to change that approach from green lane, traffic's a bit more split. So 41% north towards the city, 30% straight through, 30% south. Live traffic tools. So we can see the data for 8 days, but we also have an historical data export. The historical data export can last or can bring back data for 6 months, but you need to run the report for 6 months to be able to pull that data through, because it only starts collating the information once you as a user have defined what that intersection is. Okay, so now we'll jump over to traffic stats. So traffic stats is where we can pull through detailed information about a particular route or particular road segments. We'll have a look at a report first, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how quickly and easy it is to generate a traffic stats report. So in this case, we're going to have a look at a traffic stats report, and we're going to run an example where we've look at an example for State Highway 59, which is the old State Highway 1 prior to Transmission Gully being opened. And we're going to have a look at 2 time periods and a date range. So if I have a look at the report configuration, the direction of travel, or the route, is we're going to travel northbound from the junction with Transmission Gully motorway through to Peka Peka on that old State Highway route. We're looking at a route of around 25 kilometres. We're going to look at information from all vehicles. We're going to also look at 2 date ranges. So we're going to look at pre and post Transmission Gully opening. So 2 time periods, January to April of this year and April to September of this year. And then finally, in terms of the times, we're going to look at the time period between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. So those 4-hour periods. We're just going to look at the hour periods. If we wanted to, we could break that down further and in the report have a look at traffic information per 15-minute interval. In this case, we'll just stick to an hour. Once the report is in place, and this is what we're looking at now, the shareable component of the report, there's a couple of components, and we'll run through the user interface. So we have the route itself, which is, in this case, we're looking at the northbound direction, so north to south to north. And we're going to look firstly at the segment details. So this allows us to look at each individual segment along that route and understand the information around that particular route. In terms of the route itself, we've got it coloured by colour scale. We're currently looking at median speed. We could look at average speed, the harmonic average speed. We can look at a particular percentile. So I could perhaps choose 85th or higher or lower. And I can also understand my sample sizes, which is really important. We look further down the report. We can look at essentially the colour of the route and how it's measured, which currently is on average speed along the route profile. So again, on the left-hand side, we're looking at the southern end, and then we travel north through to Paikakariki. And you can see in this case the speed, and it's also showing the 50th and the 15th and 85th percentile. And it clearly shows, in this case, if we have a look at what I'd call the current pattern, so what's happened after Transmission Gully has opened, we have a reasonably consistent flow from the southern end at the junction with Transmission Gully through past Porirua, and then once we hit the bridge going over the estuary, then the traffic speed starts to drop as we go through Mana. You can see these peaks as we pass through the lights, and then the traffic speed starts to pick up again past Waitangiroa and the cemetery, and then we have a speed decrease as we pass through Pukirua Bay, and then we're on to Centennial Highway. In terms of the report, we can see by hour how that changes, and this is interactive. So as we would hope and expect, that the traffic pattern, now that Transmission Gully is open for this particular route, is relatively stable. We continue to see the variability through Mana, but other than that, the profile is pretty stable. But what happened prior to Transmission Gully? So if we have a look at 3 to 4 p.m. on the same particular route, you can see quite a big change in the variability of my speed through this section here, which is the section prior to traveling north to Pukirua Bay. So how does that change over time? So from 3 to 4, again, quite a big change in terms of where that speed profile changes, but also back in this section as we travel past Porirua before we hit Mana. Again, another peak, another drop through here. Here are the traffic lights, and with the on-ramp from Porirua. And then again, much greater variability through the profile. As we then come out through the peak period, traffic, the profile starts to condense and the congestion level starts to change. So from this particular graph, we can see the variability throughout the whole time period that we've selected. In addition, we can look at individual segments and understand the information around a particular segment, what type of road class it is, the speed limit, what sample size we're looking at, what length, what is the median speed. So this is this particular segment just off Transmission Gully on-ramp, 15th, 50th, 85th, median, and the average travel time. And we can look at all of the segments through there. We also get some information over here on this dashboard as we click on particular segments as well. So that's the information about the particular segments. We also have summary information. So the summary information is about the route in its entirety. First off, we get summary statistics. So in this case, what is the travel time versus the speed? So perhaps we can look at the differences between the two time periods. In this case, with travel time, 50th, we can see the difference, but obviously with the 95th, there's quite a big difference in there as well. And then if we pick on the peak time, turn that guy off again, a huge variance there as we move away from the 50th percentile. Inverse with the speed pattern, with the 5th percentile showing that lower for that period before Transmission Gully was open. We also get some more reporting, so we get individual numbers around the percentiles themselves, and then we get some summary statistics for the route. So the average travel time, again by our time and date periods, median travel time, average sample size, and the planning time index. Planning time index essentially is a measure of how long it takes to traverse the route versus free flow time. So the measure in this case, April to September 22. So post Transmission Gully opening, we have a planning time index of 1.29 at the 5 to 6 p.m. mark. Prior to Transmission Gully opening, 2.61. So the closer to 1 in this case, the closer it matches a free flow travel speed. So that's one example of a traffic stats report. We'll also have a look now at a new road that's gone on and see what we can see here. In this case, we'll have a look at Transmission Gully. So Transmission Gully traveling from, in this case, north to south. And we're looking at all of the time period throughout the day. In this case, we've chosen every single hour, and similar kind of reporting. However, we can see that the speeds in this case are very consistent. Some variability in this case at the northern end at the small hours of the day. My assumption is that this is primarily trucks that are making their way up from the Pukirua, or from the Paikokiriki end, making their way, the slog, up the hill before they crest at the top. So at this time of day, when there's very little road users, that's why we're getting this variability. And then as we move down, you can see the variability in the travel speeds is very consistent. However, variability starts to pop up again, particularly in that northern end and then through the middle here, which is around the junction with State Highway 58, as the speed slowed down, so just after that. One thing of interest with this one is potentially how well the road is performing. So in this case, if we look at the speed information, the 50th percentile, and we can have a look at the numbers below. A large number of these, or almost the majority, is very close, if not sitting on 100. However, by the time we're sitting in the 70th percentile mark, nearly all of the speeds are sitting over 100. So transmission gullies showing that it's performing as a possibly a high-speed road, and there's some information in there that we can pull through around how well it's performing. But the main thing is around the consistency of speed that we can see through this particular report. Okay. So what we'll do now is we will jump in and I'll set up a traffic stats report just to show you how well it's working and how quick and easy it is to set up a traffic stats report. And then while that's running, we'll have a look at some of the junction analytics examples. So I'm in my traffic stats dashboard. These are some of the reports that I've already built. I'm going to choose to create a new report. Obviously give the report a name. There's some report types that I can choose. I can choose to create a report on a single route. I can pull through information about all the selected roads within a given area, or I can just report on the traffic density, which is essentially TomTom's sample counts within a given area. I can choose to create a report series, which is essentially setting up a series to run in the future. So if I wanted to run a report every month from now for the next 6 months, I could run a report series. I can choose to define whether my reports are manually accepted or auto accepted. That essentially is a bit of a gate for you to determine if there are enough samples in the report for you to proceed. So by choosing the auto option, I can have a sample size threshold. So I might say that for my report, I need to have 1,000 sample sizes for it to be auto accepted. Manually, I get to manually review the report before I accept it and look at the results. Full traversal. So this option only applies if I'm analyzing a route. And full traversal essentially means that I'm only going to count trips that complete the whole route in my report. Otherwise, any trip that is partially within my route, the information from that trip will be included in my report. Finally, you can add tags. I'm just going to choose create from now. First thing we want to do is add some dates. In this particular example, I'm using the demonstration portal. So the current information in the demonstration portal is set up for January 21. So again, I'll use all my dates as a starting point from January 2021. In terms of days of the week, from here, I might want to exclude particular weekdays. So if I wanted to just look at Monday to Friday, I can choose that. And if I want to exclude particular days, I can just select them from the report as well. So I could choose to exclude those Wellington-based public holidays from my report. The same thing would apply, for example, if I wanted to look at, say, the school term 1 to term 2. I wanted to include that whole time period, but I wanted to exclude the school holidays. I could set up my time period to cover both the start and end of that time period, but manually exclude those school holiday periods. I'm going to add to that report. From here, if I wanted to, I could add an additional date range. So another date range, so you can have as many date ranges up to 24 included in your report. After you've added a date range, you then need to include what time period you want to report on. You can either create new times or you can use existing times from time periods that you've set up previously. So I can look at these are 2 time periods I've set up previously, so all day or 24 hours by the hour. I might just choose to create a new time, and it's simply a case of clicking on the map or clicking on the plus button and then choosing your time periods. So for this particular report, I'm just going to choose that particular time period to include in my report. I'm going to click add. From here, we need to give it add a new route. This is interactive, so we could search, and we can search down to street name, street number if we need to as well. The map itself is interactive in this particular report too. On the map itself, you need to give the report a name. So I'm going to call it Cobham Drive City, because I'm going to look at Cobham Drive City bound. My start and my finish points, I can either, or the easiest way to choose that is by clicking on the map, then choosing if I want to start or finish. So in this case, I'm going to start at that particular roundabout, and I'm going to finish at this particular location here, just past the traffic lights. That's going to be my finish point. From here, I can choose my vehicle types, so all, passenger, or fleet. I'm going to choose all, add to report. If I wanted to from now, I could add an additional route into my report, or I could keep it the same. So it might be that I wanted to look at the traffic in the reverse direction. In this case, we're just going to look at the one direction towards the city. Summary of my report, terms of the dates, the times, the route, and I'm just going to run off and order that report. While that's running, it won't take very long. We'll have a look at some of the origin destination tools. So the first one we'll look at is an example of origin destination using regions. So there are a number, in this case, we're looking at some Auckland regions, mostly covering Auckland City. And in this case, I've used some of the inbuilt region boundaries that TomTom supplies. So it supplies some pre-built regions that you can utilize. As I mentioned previously, you can upload your own boundaries, or you can use some of the drawing tools that TomTom has, including hex bins or grids to create your regions. Similar to the report that we've just seen, we can set up particular date periods that we want to analyze and time periods that we want to analyze. In this case, again, I'm looking at that January 2021 time period. I'm looking at the all day, and I'm looking over those regions, and the report tells me in the summary that it's counted just over 8 million trips within that particular time period within all of these regions. And in terms of my results, here are my options that I get presented with. The most common one is a matrix. You can view it interactively, or you can download into an Excel spreadsheet. We can choose to look at trips or percentages. We've got the legend here. We can choose if we want to have which origins and destinations we want to have in this particular report, if we wanted to visualize that in a particular way. And then obviously we can export this out to a spreadsheet type format if we wanted to interrogate it a bit more in a bit more detail than this particular report. We also have the ability to look at map flows. So map flows is where we might look at the flows to and from one particular region. So perhaps I'll choose Auckland Airport as the origin. So here are with Auckland being the origin, here are all the destination trips. So trips that ended within that particular time period. We can look at the absolute flows, and we can look at something called the flows relative to the region area. So kind of normalizing the flows based by the size of each region. Different ways to visualize that. Same again, we could set the Auckland CBD as the destination. We'll exclude that one. Again, a pattern as we would expect, more trips from closer into the Auckland CBD area. Other ways that we can visualize, we've got a Sankey diagram where it's interactive. You get to choose which regions are your origins and your destinations. You pick and choose them from here. You can see the map flows. You can also choose if you want to have the a via region. So I want to travel from an origin to a destination via a particular location. I can select that within my drop-down list as well. The spatial Sankey, so similar to before, except it's a map-based visualization of that Sankey. We can interactively change that lower limit of trip percentages, so we can see where the most or the strongest flows are through, and then we can just modify that. Again, we can choose flows per region as well, that flows per square kilometre, as a way to visualize the data. We'll have a look at the Flows Explorer option in the next example. So we can also look at, in this case, relatively simple junctions with the Flows Explorer. So in this case, I just want to have a look at what are the flows within this junction in Rolleston. How does traffic flow from different approaches? So similar to the live junction analytics tool, but in this case, again, we're looking at historical traffic data beyond that 6 months. And I'll use the Flows Explorer, and I'll set this one perhaps as my origin, and the other ones as my destinations, to see what the flow pattern is. So in this case, for trips traveling through this gate, for want of a better word, 23% turned down South Lincoln Rolleston Road, 65% travelled straight through, and just over 11% travelled north. We can also look at what the start hour is for those particular trips. So in this case, there's a building peak towards afternoon travel through this particular origin. We can look at the length of the trips and the duration. Of course, we can switch it around. So perhaps if I set my south one as being the origin, the original Levi Road has been the destination, In this case, the trip distribution is different. Okay, less trips traveling westbound, more eastbound and northbound, and a different flow in terms of the start hour as well. So start hour earlier in the day and a consistent and a little bit more of a peak in the afternoon. And the last one we will have a look at is the origin destination using a selected link. So in this case, instead of looking at a region, we're looking at a particular road length in a particular direction. So this is a particular selection of road. It's the Hutt Road in Wellington. So just off the urban motorway and just past the Kaifwhatawhata junction. So in this case, the tool allows us to look at both incoming and outgoing trips to that particular link. So if we have a look at the incoming trips first. So it builds out a picture of where the trips come from to enter this particular link. So if we start, I guess from the Hutt side, 14% of the 100 trips start through here and they build as we hit this particular junction. We then add in another 27% of trips. We have another 4% of trips come in from Onslow Road. So this is now building 57, 58, 61. It's picking up trips from the side, little side buildings along through here. And then that merges with the 31% coming down Nyah Gorge and hitting that or building up to create that 100% picture. So we get to see the traffic pattern across those particular roads, and we can justify the minimum and the maximum percent. In terms of outgoing trips, we get to see the same. So where do trips go that passed through this particular segment at that particular time? And we can see it splits between 25, 26% coming down past the container into Islander Wharf and the quays, 31% down Thorn and Quay, and the remainder coming on to Tinakoi Road and the side streets through here. And interestingly, a reasonable percentage, 10% of trips coming off and then back onto the urban motorway, but also a reasonable number coming or using the urban motorway and then using that to get onto the terrace at this end. So again, we can see the pattern through there. And with 5% of the trips coming out to Miramar and 3% almost making it through to the airport. I realise that I've talked quite a bit and we're nearly at time. So Chris, how are we doing for questions?
We have a lot of questions.
Right.
Huge number of questions. What I've been trying to do is split some of these questions into broad categories. So kind of as expected, there is the question around sample size.
Sure.
What does TomTom represent within New Zealand, but in general?
Okay. So globally, TomTom report that 1 in 5 vehicles is contributing to their database, and that number's reasonably consistent here in New Zealand as well. They're unable to give us an exact number, and the sample size will vary. So based on where the fleet travels, then that's going to concentrate where the sample sizes go. So there's going to be more samples in urban areas versus rural areas, but that's not to say there won't be any. So it does vary.
Similar is about, can you pick out different modes? So motorcycles, multimodal, those kind of things.
Yeah, sure. Generally, no. You can infer modes of travel. Walking and cycling, probably a hard no, unless somebody was traversing using a cycle with one of the TomTom navigation apps. But I'm not sure if those particular routes are included. The reports itself link and tie back to the TomTom road network. So I believe that any trips using apps that travel on footpaths or cycle paths, etc., are excluded.
Cool. We have a few, say, non-New Zealand residents here, but so can we supply this in Australia? What's the coverage like globally?
Yes. So 80% of countries, or 80 countries, not 80% of countries, 80 countries globally. Australia, absolutely. So Abley can supply these services for Australia as well.
And Tyler would like to know, I'm crashing the party from Canada. TomTom covers Canada as well, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that TomTom's high on their list.
Cool. Some general questions around cost. So maybe, yeah, it's hard to pick out the exact cost, but can you give us just, how is this? How do you pay for this? How is it charged?
Yeah, sure. So each of the products has a slightly different pricing methodology, I think you'd call it. So the easiest one is, say, traffic stats. So it's based on the kilometers that you consume in your report. And the kilometers that you consume in your report is essentially the road coverage. And that is multiplied by the number of date ranges that you have in your report. So if I wanted to look at a single date range, then all I'd be looking at is what my road coverage is. If I wanted to split it out and have two separate reports covering two clearly broken time periods, because it's twice, essentially double the road coverage. For junction analytics, it's based on the number of junctions that you report on. For origin destination, it's similar to traffic stats in that it's based on the road coverage and your date ranges. However, origin destination, the reports themselves cover quite a wide area to be able to pull in that origin destination information. So typically with the origin destination, it takes your road coverage and multiplies it by about a factor of 5 to be able to pull in the analysis that it needs. And then finally, for route monitoring, that's similar to traffic stats in that it's based on your road coverage, and there's a minimum road coverage required for each of those reports. So they do vary, but we do have access to bundles and local government packages that we can provide and package up the information.
Okay, I am conscious of time, so we have a few more questions. But I think what we'll do is we'll respond to those questions in person, so to speak, and share answer those questions, more widely with this group. If people are interested and they would like to know more, have a trial, what's the best thing to do?
Yeah, so the easiest way to access the trial, Abley can set those up on your behalf. But ideally, we want to help make sure that you get the best out of your trial. So easiest way to get started is to contact me. We can have a quick chat about some of the use cases that you're potentially looking to solve, or even if you just want to investigate the tools a little bit more, and we can set you up within a matter of minutes on the trial package. Trial package is pretty generous. It lasts and it varies based on the product. So for junction analytics and traffic stats, you're limited to a number of reports. For origin, destination, and traffic stats, again, you're limited to a number of reports, but also that January 2021 date period for the analysis. But easiest thing to do is to drop me an email. My details will be on this next slide, and we'll also send it out with further information following the webinar.
Cool. I'll just bring up that slide. So there are the details. Use your QR code to scan it if you like, or you can just take Jacob's details down there. More information about the TomTom product and other data products are available on the Abley website, so www.abley.com. But I hope you found that information useful. Sorry if we haven't got to your question yet. We will do our best to follow up with that over the next few days. But in the meantime, thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed it, and get in touch. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye.